VP of Content at the Jerusalem Press Club, where journalists meet Israel. We are very proud to be able to participate in this unique press conference of the World Press Club's Alliance for Climate, and to present to you some of Israel's accomplishments in making the world better and more sustainable. Fueled by a dynamic entrepreneurial spirit, robust technological infrastructure, and a highly skilled human workforce, Israel has been creating solutions in each of the main pillars of sustainability. Sustainable development in Israel is not a luxury or a catchphrase. It is vital in order to improve the well-being of present and future generations. This is one of the reasons that Israel attributes great importance to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, the SDGs. In the coming presentations, we will offer you a glimpse into some of the most exciting actions Israel is taking to meet them. Israeli innovation is the driving force behind breakthrough solutions in fields like agriculture, biotechnology, protein substitution, renewable energy, wastewater treatment, and recycling. Israelis strive to continue to nurture this culture of innovation and share it among all people in need in our planet to give practical expression to the noble Jewish value of leaving no one behind. The Jerusalem Press Club is proud to present some of the Israeli companies and startups paving the way of the future in 3 clusters: energy, food, and agriculture. You may be overwhelmed by the abundance of information and by the fast pace of data and facts, but don't worry. You can always contact us and we will provide you with all the information you need. And needless to say, we can connect you directly to any of the companies which drew your attention in particular. To contact JPC, just refer to the email, website, or social media details appearing on the screen. And now let's start with our first cluster, energy. Solar energy capabilities have been around for decades, but are we really making the most of them? If we were, I can guarantee you many more businesses, institutions, services, and even households would be using it. So a number of Israeli companies are working to solve the true potential our number one natural source, the sun, has to offer. Another is connecting existing electrical infrastructure to the cars we are driving, and others are using artificial intelligence to move power forward. In preparing the Israeli participation in this global press conference, we at the Jerusalem Press Club received inspiration and support from Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm happy to introduce Ambassador Gideon Behar, Israel's Special Envoy for Climate Change and Sustainability, who will give greetings and opening remarks.
Shalom. My name is Gideon Behar, and I'm Israel's Special Envoy for Climate Change and Sustainability. Israel supports the global efforts to reduce CO2 emissions and to strengthen adaptation measures throughout the world. In that regard, Israel International Aid Agency, Mashav, is active already more than 60 years in providing solutions in the field of adaptation and mitigation to the climate crisis, and especially in the developing world. Israel's private sector and many thousands of startups and companies are also very active in the field of climate change and supply technology transfer, capacity building, and many other measures to reduce the effects of climate change. I want to assure you that Israel is fully committed to continue helping the world in its efforts to reduce the effects of climate change and to provide the world in many solutions, practical solutions to the challenges of climate change. We want to cooperate with you. We want to strengthen our cooperation and exchange, and we are ready to do whatever necessary to maintain a healthy climate and a healthy world. Thank you very much.
Juganu specializes in LED lighting and communication solutions. It developed a foam platform which connects thousands of edge AI sensors using a wideband wireless network that does not depend on existing networks. If you don't completely understand how this works, as I didn't at first, let the people of Juganu explain it to you. Stay tuned.
Wherever you are, we want you to live brighter in a seamlessly connected world enabled by Juganu. We call it the foam. Where you choose to go is up to you, but we want you to get there safely. What you connect to is up to you, but we give you the best affordable bandwidth. What you prefer to eat is up to you, but we want you to enjoy the fullest taste. Where you shop is up to you, but we want you to have the perfect experience. No matter what you do it in safer, cleaner, greener, smarter, healthier, brighter light. Wherever you are, you can live brighter in a seamlessly connected world. Enabled by Juganu.
Have you ever wondered how a revolution feels? This is The Foam by Juganu. Imagine a seamless connectivity, self-orchestrating from a single node spread over your entire city. From one bubble to another, we are creating an invisible, dense grid. Forget the high-cost infrastructure. Look towards a brighter future. We give you the power to light, see, connect, and we give you the power to think. We suit you better than anyone else. We give bandwidth to the people. We are wire-free. Don't cable yourself. Thinking beyond light for a truly connected world. Welcome to Juganu's revolution.
portion of it is wasted because it is generated during a period of low demand. However, if we could store it properly and then use it when in demand, we would be able to realize the true potential of solar, wind, and water generation. At H2 Energy Now, they seem to have found a way to do exactly this.
Hello, my name is Sonia Davidson. I'm the CEO of H2 Energy Now. Water is a source of life, but it has so much more in it. It has the ability to store energy, because when you break it down to its component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, all of a sudden you can store renewable energy. Renewable energy is key to addressing the issues of climate change. Our technology does this by using electromagnetic waves, a new technology that is unique. And because of that, we've had our patents granted in 2019 in the USA and Europe. We have assembled a team, built a prototype, and we're presently involved in its commercialization. Again, thank you. My name is Sonia Davidson.
How can we make the best use of solar energy? Raycatch have developed an innovative, AI-driven digital asset management system that automates and optimizes solar PV assets, making renewable energy more efficient, accessible, and profitable.
Most solar assets rely on manual management tools for alerts and data visualization, but manual tools are crude, and their ability to interpret complex, noisy, high-volume data is limited. Introducing Deep Solar by Raycatch. In a new era of lower margins and competing investments, solar plant stakeholders have to manage and react to a variety of changing variables in an efficient and ROI-driven manner in order to succeed. Under these circumstances, it's necessary to have reliable, relevant, and current information to make data-driven decisions. Deep Solar collects all the available data, cleans the noise, and reports back only what is necessary to make smart business and operational decisions. With Deep Solar, you will know exactly where the problem is, how it can be solved, and whether it is worthwhile to invest the effort to fix it. Deep Solar is an expert machine learning system which automatically collects data, takes into account weather effects, correlates different models, and then uses artificial intelligence to analyze the data in depth. Its sophisticated diagnostics provide reliable, transparent, and efficient insights that increase energy harvesting, significantly reduce the cost of maintenance, and increase profit margins. Whether you need it for your portfolio, asset, or even your production units, Deep Solar collects all the data, but serves it as specific ROI-driven actions, making it the superior way to get actionable, reliable, comprehensive, and accurate insights on your plant's condition.
The vision of EnergiyaGlobal spans far beyond the boundaries of Israel. They are working towards a world in which clean energy will not be a luxury that only wealthy nations can afford, but will be the energy choice for lifting people in developing countries out of poverty. EnergiyaGlobal mobilizes the ingenuity and the values of Israel and the Jewish people to reduce the world's dependence on fossil fuels and empower people globally.
Let there be light.
I used to be a Jewish educator and a human rights activist, and now I'm a solar entrepreneur. How do we being the world and the Jewish people, stop the extinction of thousands of species of animals?
It's all right.
How do we stop the increase, which we're all experiencing, in extreme weather storms?
It's been a long, cold,
I thought it was going to be very easy. You see the sun, it's always shining. You see the grid line, it's right here. 6 months max. Well, so 6 months became a year became 2 years, and 2 years became 5 years.
He just took it one piece at a time, and he just kept going.
Because of global warming, what do we want? Let solar shine. Because President Perez committed us to 20% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, what do we want? Let solar shine.
It's a great ramp up and represents hope. Wait until they see a 40 megawatt field, then I think we get the acceleration and the scaling worldwide. We're a little country in a challenging neighborhood, and we're so dependent on importing coal and gas and really bad diesel, which we're probably buying on the spot market from our enemies, where we could really be self-sufficient with the power of the sun.
Yosef plans for 40 more energy projects in Israel over the next 3 years. But the man, now dubbed Captain Sunshine, is setting his sights even higher.
Could we take our successful model that we did in Israel, and would it be possible to do it around the world? There are 600 million people in Africa without power. We thought the best place to start in Africa would be in Rwanda. Rwanda has a unique and deeply tragic history, and yet it's a history that we, the Jewish people, can understand. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, oh, all around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. I think all innovators fail, myself many times included, but this storyline cannot fail. We're gonna build the solar field, and then hopefully 100, and then maybe 1,000, and Africa is gonna look different.
Jendumva nu, jendumva mahubezi, jendumva ibichuru umubiri wose. Nawe kirashaka, kikagira amashami, kikamera n'imbuto. Intego nuko aho tukabanaho, tugahesha agaciro ababyeyi bacu.
Let's go. Power of the people! Power of the people! Power to the people! Power to the people, right on! Woohoo! As we were walking from the gate, I turned around and I looked back at all these people, and the blue panels are on this side and on this side. They remind me of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea. Some of us have come from the Holy Land, from the high mountains of Jerusalem, to stand together here at the highest lookout point at Agohozer Shalom. And what we can see from up here today for Rwanda and Africa and the world is hope. And from Africa to the Paris climate talks, I'm okay, thank you. Where's my big line? Hold on, no, I'm okay. Okay, thank you. Ready? Hold on, take two. And from Africa to the Paris climate talks, together we will bring light and hope to the world. Therefore, from this mountaintop, from this source of enlightenment, we call on the United Nations to affirm that access to green power and affordable green power should be elevated as a fundamental human right for all of humanity and for all people. We're
We're 2 to 3 financial closes away from a full profit point. We're planning to deploy about $2 billion over the next 5 years in 10 African countries.
What countries excite you the most?
Okay, so we have deal flow currently in Rwanda, Burundi, Liberia, South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, and we're in negotiations in a bunch more that I can't announce yet. At a time when the world is looking for real climate solutions, I have historic news for you. And that is from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea. Today marks a full month that all the daytime energy needs of Eilat, the hotels, the kibbutzim, all the factories are being met by solar power. Today is the 1 month anniversary that we're at 100% for a region of Israel. And that's the model for the state of Israel.
That's incredible, Yossi. Do you think that renewables can make up more than sort of 10% of the energy mix in any country across the continent?
It is possible, and it is economically viable to go 100% renewables.
100% renewables.
100% renewables. There's plenty of sunshine. There's lots of places that have plenty of hydro, and there's plenty of wind. Our goal should be 100% renewables. We often meet energy ministers from African countries, and they're saying, oh, they have programs to be 20% solar or 50% solar, but by 2050. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. That's actually a plan to keep you addicted to dirty and expensive diesel for another generation. You can go 100% daytime solar now. 100% solar with 100% project finance we can bring to Africa. There are African ambassadors here, and we bring them down to the Arava and we show them what 100% looks like, and we say, Your Excellency, do you want one of those? You know, this will power half your country. And they say yes. And now we built in Rwanda. We're supplying 6% of their power. And we're currently building in a country called Burundi. We'll supply 15% of their power. And then soon Liberia, 20%. And South Sudan, hopefully 100% daytime. So Juba, the capital of South Sudan, will be at 100% solar hopefully in the next 18 months.
warwanye mbere nirwo rwari rukomeye bityo nago numva impamvu rari rwo rukunaniye sigaho kumanika amaboko niharagera abawe tukuri inyuma witeka kikurora wakoze biriya n'ibindi azabikora nijya kuremeye kuruha ntutinye umubabaro uzagera ushire tugacinye.
It doesn't matter how many times we fall. What matters is how many times we stand up again and be counted.
Don't say it's not going to be done. Say it will be done.
It will be done.
Prophetically, the Bible says Israel shall give light. It was so spiritual that Israel now came physically to give light into Africa.
What I have been witnessing in Israel, it's first of all the resilience, and it's hardworking people. They might be chosen, they might be the book people, but whatever they do things, they are hardworking people and they know how to get things done. And nobody would believe that we can get a project done in Burundi, 8.6 megawatt, like 20 million investment in Burundi. And we'll be raising the national capacity, generation capacity of the electricity to 15%.
We're a small little country. We've had to figure out lots of things because we're in a tough neighborhood. But when I'm in Africa, what do they want? They want water that they can drink without getting sick. Well, we have the best water technologies in the world. What do they want? They want food. Well, we can grow anything, anywhere, essentially. And what do they want? They want power, and they want it to be clean. And this is now kind of the breakthrough in the proof text of what we've done in Rwanda.
Here comes the sun.
What a great historic opportunity to bring together some of the values of the Jewish community and some of our history, and to use it in a transformative way that really is doing the tikkun olam, the change in the world.
through the darkness till I stand still.
Electreon is a company with an ambition to transform the world of transportation. Their technology involves copper coils under the asphalt, which transfer energy from the electricity grid to the road's infrastructure, and from there to receivers on the floor of vehicles. Sounds like science fiction? The people at Electreon don't think so.
Hello, my name is Noam Ilan, and I've been fighting climate change through technology for the last 20 years. Today, I'm VP Business Development at Electreon. We make the platform of the future for electromobility. You've probably all seen the futuristic new electric trucks that are going to roll out to the market very soon. This is happening because governments all over the world decided that in order to fight climate change, they need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the global transportation sector. Electromobility is already here. We can see many passenger electric vehicles on the road, and this is great. But in order to really reduce those emissions, governments and everyone need to reduce emissions from heavy utility vehicles and commercial fleets. For example, trucks create about 30% of the global greenhouse gas emissions from transportation all over the world, and the range and the usage of trucks all over the world is just growing. So, those futuristic new trucks, do you think that everybody knows how they're going to be charged? Not necessarily. And this is because charging of heavy utility vehicles is quite challenging. There are two main challenges. The first one is the battery. The battery is still heavy, expensive, has high degradation rate, especially when it goes through fast charging, and is very sensitive to extreme weather such as heat and cold. Also, can you imagine the millions of tons of batteries that we need in order to electrify the entire commercial fleets of the world? This is not sustainable. Batteries are not sustainable. They consume a lot of energy during production, and they contain hazardous materials. The other challenge is the infrastructure. Imagine huge depots with hundreds of trucks or buses, and they need to get a grid connection, a huge grid connection for them. That is not simple at all. Also, those depots are not necessarily owned by the fleet operators. And the fleet operators, it's not their main business to install and operate charging infrastructure. They should concentrate on operating the fleets. Another issue is the fact that the utility rate is quite low when you need to stop for charging during the night at the depot or during the day fast charging. And this sometimes might require to add vehicles to the fleet in order to support full operation. So, what if there was a solution that can enable vehicles, heavy utility vehicles or any other electric vehicles to go all day long without charging with very small batteries? That would be great, wouldn't it? So, we have such a solution. This solution is called electric roads, charging vehicles while they drive. And what are the advantages of this platform, of this solution? The main advantage is the fact that if you continuously charge those batteries, you can extremely decrease the size of the battery, and by that also lower the cost of the initial cost of the vehicles. Besides that, you can increase the utilization rate. If you never need to stop for charging, you can ensure the fleet operator optimal and continuous operation. Besides that, the degradation of the batteries will be much lower, because batteries do not like fast charging. Continuous charging is healthy for the batteries. So, this is what we are doing. Electreon is doing the next generation of electric roads, wireless electric roads. It's quite simple to explain the concept. We have three main components. One are the coils that are under the ground, under the road. The second are the receivers that are beneath, integrated to the bottom of the vehicle. And the third are the management units on the side of the road that are also connected to the grid. The coils are totally passive. They only transfer electricity to the receivers, to the vehicles, when there's an authorized vehicle going over them. So what are the added benefits of wireless charging, of wireless electric roads? First of all, it's a shared infrastructure. So we install infrastructure in the public road, but it can be used by the entire public, all type of vehicles, not only one type of vehicle, which is very important. Second, there are no visual hazards, no visual impact. This is extremely important for governments and cities. They do not want to see charging infrastructure or fuel stations, and they don't want the risk of those charging stations being vandalized or misused, and then they can also be damaged. So in our case, wireless charging, everything is under the road. There's no visual impact on the environment. So what are the main use cases for this solution? So almost all use cases apply, but the two main use cases that we're focusing on are cities and highways. In the city, the base users are the buses. It's very important to electrify buses. They create noise and pollution in the center of the cities and emit a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And this is already happening. Quite a few cities in the world are already using electric buses, but the cities and the operators face a lot of challenges with electrifying them. It's expensive, the operation is not continuous, and we can solve that. So the base users in the city are buses, and then we can open the same infrastructure exactly for other type of vehicles, such as delivery trucks, vans, shuttles, and taxis. For example, taxis, they don't have a depot in the city. For them, charging while driving is an optimal solution. In the highway, the base users are long-haul trucks. It's extremely important to electrify long-haul trucks. They emit huge amount of emissions. They have long range, so they need a huge battery. A battery for a long-haul truck can weigh up to 7 tons. So eventually, instead of carrying cargo, this truck is going to carry a huge battery. So the base users in the highway are trucks, and then the same infrastructure can be open to other type of vehicles. For example, passenger vehicles. Today, if you have an electric passenger vehicle, you carry a huge battery which you do not really need on daily usage. So in the future, you can have a much cheaper electric vehicle with a small battery, and when you want to go on the highway to another city, you can get charged from the electric road while you drive. That will be great, and it will increase the penetration of electric passenger vehicles. So eventually, the combination of those two use cases, cities and intercity, can create the most cost-effective and sustainable charging solution for entire cities, regions, and countries. And in the next stage, when transportation or commercial fleets will become autonomous, that's an optimal combination. They can drive 24/7 without ever stopping by charging from our infrastructure, and there's no need for a driver to plug in the conductive charging device. So we are Electreon. We are an Israeli publicly traded company. We have a fully owned subsidiary in Sweden. We are well funded. We are developing all the technology in-house, and the technology is well protected by a strong intellectual property. What we essentially offer is the optimal solution for fleet operators. They don't have to deal with charging infrastructure. They don't have to think they own the depot, they not own the depot. It's a very complicated structure of owning and operating commercial vehicles. In our case, we offer that as a service. So it will be cost effective for them, sustainable, and they can focus on their main business. Just pay for charging as a service while they drive. This is an optimal solution for them. So this is not only a fantasy. We already started deploying our infrastructure in many places in the world. And here are two examples. Deployment in Sweden and in Tel Aviv. It's pretty straightforward, simple. We can do 1 kilometer in one night. In the next morning, you see nothing. Nothing has changed. And we already have 3 pilot projects, ongoing pilot projects that demonstrate different applications. The first one is in Tel Aviv, in which we are together with the government of Israel and the municipality of Tel Aviv, demonstrating a city application. We're charging a shuttle, and in the future, the next stage, we're already developing a project for charging the entire bus fleets of Tel Aviv. We do not have to deploy our infrastructure all over the city, only on the main roads, and by that we can decrease the grid connection to the depot, decrease the size of the bus, offer optimal operation, and the leading bus operator in Tel Aviv, Dan, is our partner and is looking forward for this solution. In Sweden, we are demonstrating an intercity application. The project is financed by the Swedish government, and we're going to demonstrate both a truck and a bus that is charged from the infrastructure. Actually, we already demonstrated the truck and it has great performances, and we also demonstrated how simple it is to integrate the receiver to any kind of vehicle. The next stage is that the Swedish government, which has a very ambitious plan for electric roads, is planning to electrify 3,000 kilometers in Sweden in order to achieve the goal of extreme decrease in emissions from long-haul trucks. Also, Germany is looking closely at electric roads, and and in Germany we're working with Envoy, which is one of the biggest energy companies in Germany. They are shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy, and they are great believers in the future of electric roads. Another application that we're testing in Sweden is the option to use solar energy in order to charge a road. That combination is optimal. If we use solar energy, electric roads, small battery, that's the most sustainable way. And this is the way we see the future. Thank you very much.
This concludes our segment of energy innovations by Israeli companies. You can contact any company by approaching them directly or by contacting us at info@jerusalempressclub.com, and we will make sure you reach the right people. Please stay tuned for our next segments in this press conference, showcasing Israeli contributions in food and agriculture. And now we'll move on to our second cluster, food substitutes. If you're just as curious as I am to understand how scientists can create hamburgers that taste exactly like the ones you eat during your Independence Day barbecue in a lab, this next segment is for you. What we eat impacts not only our bodies, but the land, water, and air involved in its creation. More and more people are asking what can be done to minimize the damage done by existing solutions to the human need for consumption. Israeli researchers are literally reshaping what people around the globe will put on their plates, developing real cheese without a single cow or goat. They are synthesizing vegetables consisting of nearly 50% protein, protecting the Earth's resources and feeding populations with sustainable, high-impact nutrition. I'd like to welcome Israel's Minister of Technology, Mr. Izhar Shay, for opening remarks.
Hello. Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you today. It is my real privilege to speak to you about the important aspects of sustainability, impact investments, and innovation. I believe that setting sustainable-based goals for new ventures is a great way to set the road for a better, healthier, and cleaner world for our next generations, and therefore, it should be the utmost commitment of all of us, individuals, policymakers, business people, ventures, communities, and nations. As you may know, we like to consider ourselves here in Israel as startup nation. As of late, we have begun using the term innovation nation to mark the notion of not only new, young startup companies, but also to emphasize the fact that innovation is and should be part of any kind of any business and organization, and that we promote innovation across all aspects of our lives. As such, we want to promote sustainability. We believe in setting SDG parameters for our government, for the organizations it supports, and by and large, for the private sector. Amongst the private innovative sectors that have already embarked here in Israel on the SDG path, I'm proud to mention food tech, agri-tech, food security, green energy, alternative energy sources, water tech, clean water, clean air, and many other innovative segments. It is important for me to mention the private investments sector as well. We have witnessed a growing number of venture capital and angel investors here in Israel who request that their investees set SDG goals for the businesses. And in addition to this, the category of impact investments has definitely become an important area of activity in the private innovation sector here in Israel. As for the future, I believe that eventually every business, any organization will have to embark on the sustainability path. This is a way of life, a way of conducting our businesses, our government, our nations, and an obligation we carry for our future generations. I wish all of you a very productive conference, and I hope that this will be just the beginning of a long-lasting, everlasting conversation that will help all of us make this world a little better, healthier, cleaner, and more sustainable for the good of all of us and all of ours. From here in Jerusalem, thank you very much and shalom.
GFI is accelerating the transition of the global food system to alternative proteins by making them more delicious, affordable, and accessible than conventional animal products. Before diving into the various presentations of Israeli food tech companies, let's hear a few introductory words from Aviv Oren of Good Food Institute Israel.
It is a pleasure to be speaking with you all today. My name is Aviv Oren, and I'm leading the business engagement at the Good Food Institute Israel. There are many fascinating areas in the agri-food sector, but it is clear that there is no potentially transformational technology area than alternative proteins, which is why I'm here to provide you an intro to the following session of Israeli innovation in alternative proteins. Following my introduction to this ecosystem, we will give the stage to the Israeli startup company to present their breakthrough technologies. So how we will feed 10 billion people by 2050? It is known that intensive animal agriculture is one of the most destructive forces in human history. It is the #1 user of fresh water on the planet and the #1 cause of Amazon deforestation. It is responsible for 14 to 18% of greenhouse gas emissions. It is highly inefficient as it takes 9 calories of food fed to a chicken to produce 1 calorie of meat. It is also the #1 user of antibiotics that increases the risk of antibiotic-resistant disease, and it is the primary cause of zoonotonic disease. But people love meat, eggs, and dairy, and let's face it, they are delicious. This is why Good Food Institute's approach to this challenge is instead of asking consumers to give up the food they love, we work to accelerate the transition and to make meat, dairy, and eggs in a better way. The goal is to create products that are delicious, affordable, and accessible. For those not yet familiar with our organization, the Good Food Institute is a donor-funded nonprofit that is dedicated to accelerating the shift to a sustainable, healthy, and just food system. GFI employs over 100 employees across 6 countries with 3 departments. In science and technology, our team of PhD scientists work to advance the science, drafting white papers, identifying white spaces, and funding research. Our business and corporate engagement team provides support to entrepreneurs and startups, as well as investors and financial institutions. We also build relationships with the world's biggest food companies, manufacturers, and retailers to help them capitalize on opportunities in alternative proteins. Our policy team advocates for fair regulation of and government investments in alternative proteins. GFI achieves its missions by acting as an accelerator for the alternative protein industry, and in Israel, we mostly focus on the innovation side. Alternative proteins positively affecting many of the global goals for sustainable development. For example, alternative proteins can feed 9.7 billion people vastly more efficiently and to be optimized for human health. They require few natural resources and enable ethical protein consumptions. They can also reduce GHG emissions as well as water and land utilizations, reduce overfishing, and restore biodiversity on land. For those reasons, we know that the primary cause of the growth in demand has been growing consumer interest in reducing animal product consumptions by mostly flexitarians, which are about 30% of the population, a much larger segment than vegan and vegetarians. Beyond Meat stated, for example, that 93% of their customers also buy animal-based meat. Although consumers are primarily driven by taste, price, and availability, it is known that the key drivers behind meat reductions are personal health and environmental reasons. We also are seeing similar trends here in Israel and in other parts of the world. With increasing demand, let's see, what is the focus for this market? According to the leading institutions like Barclays, UBS, and JP Morgan, the plant-based meat market is projected to reach close to 10% of the overall meat market, which is about $140 billion by 2030. For reference, today the plant-based meat market in the US is about 1% of the meat industry, and the plant-based milk is already capturing 14% of the meal market. In addition, many of the top food companies are reporting stagnation in their meat and dairy product sales. However, they are also reporting double-digit growth in the plant-based product. We divide the alternative protein landscape and technologies to three main sectors: plant-based, fermentation, and cultivate. Let's discuss very briefly about them. Plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy are produced directly from plants. They usually rich in plant-based protein as soy, pea, chickpea, and others. The next generation look, taste, and cook like conventional meat and offer complex carbs and fibers. Fermentation is an Asian technique being used widely for many years in the food industry. However, in recent years and thanks to advanced molecular biology techniques, it can produce our future food more efficiently. In this technology, microorganisms such as fungi and bacteria can be programmed to express specific proteins of fat, or their entire protein biomass can be harvested. In this way, we can, for example, produce dairy protein in order to produce dairy product without the cows. Cultivated meat, also known as culture or cell-based meat, is produced directly from animal-based cells. In this process, we take animal cells, grow them in bioreactor soups, providing them the temperature and the optimal nutrients, then harvest the meat. It is actual meat growing outside an animal. Compared with conventional meat, cultivated beef is estimated to reduce land use by more than 95%, climate change emissions by about 80%, and reduce the risk of zoonotonic disease, antibiotic resistance, and food contamination. All of those and the above led to an increase in focus in investments in this field. You can see in this graph the investments in the three categories of cultivated, plant-based, and fermentation. Venture capital investment across all alternative protein categories has grown rapidly over the last decade and tripled in the last 3 years. In the first half of 2020 alone, the amount of funding surpassed 2019, going above $1 billion for the first time. Despite this growth, much more investment is needed, and the amount is very small relative to other industry. For example, per PitchBook, over $2.6 billion in venture capitals was invested in US cannabis companies alone in 2019. This is 2.5 times the amount of alternative protein investments. We are here to expose you to the Israeli ecosystem of alternative protein. Israel, with its leading research institutions and entrepreneurship spirit, is in the forefront of innovation in the alternative protein industry. Over 100 companies that are active in this space, with about 30 startups in the plant-based, fermentation, and cultivated meat. According to the latest GFI Fermentation State of the Industry report, Israel is second in the world in the number of fermentation startups producing plant-based meat or dairy product. Remilk is one of them, and they will present here today. Israel was also a leading pioneer in cultivated meat innovation, with 4 out of the world's first 8 cultivated meat companies to be founded in Israel. I want to finish here and to give the stage to the Israeli startups in the field of alternative protein. We have great companies presenting here today: Aleph Farms, Future Meat, and MeaTech under cultivated meat, Remilk under fermentation, and Innovopro under plant-based ingredients. You are welcome to visit gfi.org to dive into our free resources. Our State of the Industry reports are a good starting points. Also, feel free to reach out to me and to contact me directly. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the session.
Established in 1912 in Haifa, Israel's northern port city, the Technion is a science and technology research university among the world's top 10 and dubbed the House of Israeli Nobelists. The Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering strives to be the central institute contributing to the design of food and biotechnology industries in Israel. This is achieved by professional training, which combines the scientific and engineering requirements of these industries, as well as performing groundbreaking, state-of-the-art research. The Technion, then, is the perfect starting point for our presentation of some of Israel's food tech innovations.
The Earth today is at a global tipping point. We have to do everything we can to reduce the environmental impact of human life on the planet. The meat industry is responsible for a large amount of global greenhouse gas emissions. Larger demand for meat also means larger demand for pastures to raise the meat and larger demands for crops to feed the meat. All of those come at the expense of tropical forest land. Many of the Technion professors are working on research that can potentially contribute to addressing these problems. Technion was established before the State of Israel was established, and the idea was to prepare the next generation to build the nation. Since then, the university has expanded exponentially. Its scientists have been awarded 3 Nobel Prizes. We're working on interventions in how we build things, how we teach things, how we operate as a society that can help improve our environmental performance and contribute to sustainability. Reducing meat consumption is really something we have to do if we want to protect ourselves from these emerging environmental challenges.
Tissue engineering is a field where we create tissues in the lab for regenerative medicine. The idea is to repair or replace damaged tissues in the body. And in tissue engineering, you combine cell with biomaterial to create 3D pieces of tissues. Then you can culture them in vitro to mature the tissue, and then the tissue can be implanted in the body. For many years, we worked on skeletal muscle tissue engineering, and then one of my PhD students came with the idea, why not to use this technology for growing a piece of meat? In the lab, we can take cow cells and we can take edible scaffold and combining them and culturing them and suddenly seeing this muscle fiber forming on edible scaffold that one can now taste and eat. This was really very exciting.
The tissue engineering field was mentioned a couple of times during my bachelor's degree in biochemical engineering, and I was completely taken by the idea. I really wanted to take part in this development because it sounds like the medicine of the future, so to me it sounds incredible.
I really encourage my students to think freely and to come with their own idea and to bring them up, and we discuss them together. So this is, I think, one of the basic concepts of research in the academia.
We as educators are here to take all of the sum total of human knowledge created up into the point, hand it to our students with the tools to analyze it so they can go on and build upon it and build towards the next generation of scientific knowledge.
The technology developed by Professor Levenberg is a main component of Aleph Farms' product today. When cultivated meat will replace a large part of the industrial farming facilities, we expect that we can rebalance the use of natural resources, stop deforestation and the climate change impact of meat production. We have 1.5 more years of development until we reach commercial product, and by then we should be identical to the meat we all know and like.
every step here is a new one. No one did anything like this before. This is why we're all here.
To think about a future where the cows can eat and enjoy freely their life and still we have a steak in the plate, I think it's something that we can't really imagine. It's huge, like to enjoy meat without harming animal, it's something that is really a game changer.
For me personally, my main goal at Aleph Farms is to lead a real change in the way we managed our natural resources in order to leave a better legacy to the future generations.
At Aleph Farm, they integrate nature's design to grow steak from the various cell types comprising it. While in industrial farming it takes 2 years to produce your steak, at Aleph Farms it only takes 3 weeks. I wonder how they do it.
Once upon a time, the world was in balance. People used to grow their own food. They even called animals by their names. There was a connection between what we grew and what we ate. But today, in our hyper-industrialized world, we've lost this connection. We send billions of animals to slaughter every year. Using 30% of available lambs, consuming 15,000 liters of water for every kilo of beef produced, increasing issues of contamination, antibiotic resistance, and climate change, throwing our world out of balance. But what if we could go back to growing food that was in balance with nature? What if we could grow a steak identical to the steak we all like, but without the downsides to health and the environment, and in a way that's more humane? At Aleph Farms, we believe meat should be celebrated and enjoyed. That's why we directly grow safe, cell-based real meat similar to farm meat, the same meat with an improved production process. Aleph Farms replicates the muscle regeneration process that naturally occurs inside the cow, but on the outside. Using the same types of cells found in a steak, we grow slaughter-free meat in 3D, ensuring an end product which obtains the same taste, texture, and structure, advancing towards our vision of creating a cell-based steak. We're entering a new era by growing meat that's good for you, good for animals, and good for the planet, leaving a better legacy to future generations. This is no fairy tale. This is a true story, brought to you by Aleph Farms.
Aleph Farms are excited to announce a game-changing moment in cellular meat history. We're getting closer to our vision of creating a cellular steak, providing the experience, look, and feel of the steak we all know.
We've successfully produced the first pieces of beef steak grown from natural cells without harming any animals. Meat is a complex tissue. This breakthrough includes various cell types found in conventional cuts of meat grown together outside the animal to form a 3D structure similar to meat, but using more sustainable, safe, and ethical methods. These first cell-based meat cuts demonstrate our capability of achieving our vision of growing steaks.
This meat had a great look and the original texture of a steak.
Finally, meat you can enjoy that's good for your health and the planet from Aleph Farms.
We all know how much water is used to grow livestock for meat, and we know the extent to which greenhouse gases entering the atmosphere come from the livestock industry. And we know how much of the land is used for grazing and animal feed production. MeaTech is proposing a solution, 3D printed meat. You heard me. Perhaps the future lies there. Recognized as an innovator of disruptive technology, Innovopro is committed to bringing unique plant-based protein ingredients to the global food market in order to create nutritious, tasty, safe, and sustainable food products. Here's what they have to offer.
My guess is that 3 out of 10 people that are watching us are either vegan, vegetarian, or have some kind of food allergies. We at Innovopro believe that innovation starts with what we eat. So we provide the solution to what the world is looking for, vegan proteins. My name is Tali Nehushtan. I'm the CEO of Innovopro. I have more than 20 years of experience in building new companies, promoting new brands, and leading teams to success.
My name is Nitzan Natani, and I'm the CTO of Innovopro. I'm holding a master's degree in biotechnology, and I have more than 10 years of experience in the food and plant protein industry. We extract chickpea protein using a unique, natural, and sustainable technology that doesn't include any solvents and maintains the nutritional value of the product.
My name is Anna Schnapp, and I'm a food technologist at Innovopro. Unlike many plant-based proteins, chickpea protein is a strong emulsifier and foaming agent with excellent oil and water-binding properties. Besides being allergen-free, gluten-free and non-GMO, it enables creating clean label products.
Based on our chickpea protein and together with leading food companies, we are developing special egg-free mayonnaise and unique puddings that are clean label and, most importantly, delicious.
The people at Remilk say they love milk, but insist that using animals to make our food is both primitive and destructive. After all, raising cows requires enormous quantities of inputs while producing vast amounts of waste. So they teamed up with technology to reshape the future of dairy in the most scalable and delicious way. At Remilk, they say they only have one goal: to make creamy dairy products that would make a cow jealous and a bit grateful.
Hello everyone, I'm very honored to be here today. My name is Aviv Wolf. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Remilk. We're an Israeli-based company making cow's milk products without using a single cow. Dairy products have been traditionally consumed for generations. In fact, traces of cow's milk protein have been identified on the teeth of prehistoric farmers dated for as early as 6,000 years ago. This revolutionary invention of domestication of animals has played an important role in the history of humankind. Today, we can only imagine the creativity and the ingenuity of those prehistoric entrepreneurs that enabled the transition from a hunter-gatherer society to one based on animal agriculture, not all that different from the one that we have today. However, we now understand that relying on animals to make our food is no longer sustainable. The implications of animal farming are devastating for our planet. Now is the time for a new revolutionary invention that will enable the transition to a food system that takes no more than what our planet can give. Dairy production is a leading contributor to greenhouse gas emission and requires massive land and water resources. As only one example, a recent study from the University of Oxford demonstrated that animal agriculture is the cause of approximately 14.5% of greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the entire global automotive industry, which makes animal agriculture one of the world's most urgent problems. Additionally, the need to raise cows for milk and meat production has become the single largest cause of deforestation. 91% of rainforest areas cut down each year to create space for raising cattle. But ecological destructiveness is only one reason the use of animals to make food loses its strength to modern food technologies. Today, the dairy industry must cope with reduced demand for their products, alongside chronic inefficiencies inherent in maintaining cattle herds of an economically viable size. The industrial livestock production model has all but reached its limits in terms of scale, reach, and efficiency. This is where we come into play. Remilk can precisely reproduce the same milk proteins through the process of microbial fermentation, essentially making dairy products with dairy proteins without needing a single cow. So what is microbial fermentation? If you've ever enjoyed a creamy brie or a full-bodied IPA, you've enjoyed the products of microbial fermentation. Fermentation is an ancient process that has shaped civilization, discovered and rediscovered by different cultures and societies throughout history. It's a simple process, allowing us to transform one form of energy into another. And so instead of using it to express lactic acid or alcohol, we're using it to produce the foundations of our food system, the proteins. In today's technology and data-driven world, fermentation is poised to influence civilization in exciting new ways. As we understand more about fermentation and the microbes responsible for the process, we are learning how to leverage and optimize microbial fermentation to improve the health of humankind and the planet as a whole. Now, let's deep dive into our process. In a very simple way, we take the gene that encodes our protein of interest and we insert this gene into a microbe. The gene functions as an instruction book for the production of the protein it encodes, and so it instructs the microbe to produce the specific protein in a very efficient and scalable way. Then, using the fermented milk proteins, we're making dairy products that are identical to cow's milk products with the same taste, the same texture, the same stretchiness, meltiness, and with no lactose, with no cholesterol. We are constantly conducting double-blind testings where our products have proved to be indistinguishable from traditional dairy products. The future of dairy is already here, and it can replace an extravagantly inefficient system with one that is much more precise, clean, and stable. This technology is so much more efficient. We've basically ported the whole mechanism of producing milk into a single cell microbe. We don't need the rest of the cow, and we surely don't need to spend resources in the process of creating a 900 kilograms animal. We believe that the cost of fermented proteins will be a few times cheaper by the next several years compared to existing animal proteins. This means that modern food products will be soon of higher quality and cost less to produce than the animal-derived products they replace. This is an absolute game changer for the entire industry. This model of food production will in fact be up to 100 times more land efficient than the existing dairy systems. More than 25 times feedstock efficient, 20 times time efficient, and 10 times more water efficient. That's an easy battle given the fact that the dairy industry has to spoil more than 1,000 liters of water to produce only 1 liter of milk. That's the amount of water used in 17 average showers for only 1 liter of milk. Now, these advances will combine an entirely new model of food production. This model will be remarkably more efficient, but will also ensure a production system that is completely decentralized and much more stable and resilient to seasonality, weather, pandemic, and other natural, economic, and political factors. And when talking about changing an industry, we should also be speaking about the market opportunity, which will obviously be a key driver for this imminent disruption. And this market is already going through tremendous shifts. The gap between complete veganism and people who are constantly consuming animal products is vanishing. In fact, more than 25% of the general population is actively trying to eat animal-free options, motivated by ethics, health, and the environment. The traditional dairy industry, which is already balancing on a knife edge, is desperately trying to catch up with this flourishing plant-based demands. A $1 trillion market has to reinvent itself and make space for the dairy alternatives market, currently estimated at $16 billion, with an exceptional growth rate of 14% every single year. And in such a critical time for our planet, each one of us should contribute his part in our struggle against climate crisis. As individuals, we can all do more by being more aware of our implications of our diet, our transportation, our consumption. For us in Remilk, we aim to contribute our part by creating dairy products that are better for humans, for cows, and for our planet. Thank you.
How many times have you craved for a certain fruit or vegetable, except it wasn't in season? Well, Hinoman has developed a year-round vegetable called mankai. that is stable in composition, price, and quality. Let's see.
You're looking at a superfood. Yup, a superfood. Also, this is a superfood. You're looking at the smallest vegetable in the world. You're looking at mankai, a tiny superfood, full of life and vitality. A secret that was once known to only a few, and today will be revealed to the world. For hundreds of years, South Asian women have been relying on kai nam, or water eggs, to feed their loved ones. Although unbelievably tiny, kai nam packs the nutritious prowess of a healthy meal. This wondrous leafy vegetable is full of protein, minerals, a significant amount of dietary fiber, vitamins, and numerous polyphenols. It even contains vitamin B12, which is very rare in any plant-based food. But kai nam was confined to a tiny part of Asia. Transforming this super nutritious ancient green into a common part of our daily diets was only recently made possible, utilizing an innovative process that brings technology, science, and modern agriculture together. After 7 years of experimenting and researching, today, mankai can finally be introduced. Carefully and lovingly nurtured and cultivated with attention to every tiny detail, modern mankai marries nature's incredible creation with the very best of precision sustainable agriculture. A plant that multiplies every 72 hours. Harvested daily, minimally processed, straight from farm to table. Mankai is easily integrated into any dish, creating minimal impact on its taste. Add it to food, sprinkle it on food, eat it, drink it, bake it. With just a light touch, this creative vegetable can turn any food into a superfood. This is an ancient green made modern. This is a creative vegetable that can superfood anything. This is mankai.
Future meat technologies advance a cost-effective solution for cellular agriculture that is scalable and sustainable by design. Their animal-free meat does not compromise on nutritional value, aroma, or flavor, and their vision is a future in which our children eat the same food we enjoyed growing up. Let's see how they do it.
When our ancestors walked the frozen tundras of the last ice age, somebody finding and killing a whole mammoth means the entire tribe was celebrating, because that meat meant protein to make more people, but it also meant fat to build over thousands and tens of thousands of years the human central nervous system. Indeed, if you take a look at our evolutionary record and compare it to our diet, you can see that the invention of fire suddenly meant that meat was more readily available to digest. And there is a link between primates' diet, our invention of fire, and our cranial capacity. This link is ingrained in our culture. And really, all around the world, meat is celebrated for that exact reason around the world, in all cultures, in all nations. What this means is that as appealing as this dish looks like, especially to my vegetarian wife, it simply doesn't generate an emotional response. Yes, tofu is yummy. I eat it at home. But you don't get the same response to this as you get to this, a grilled steak. People can look at this image and smell it. you can actually get the feeling of eating it. You feel the flavors. You get an emotional response. We're craving it. If you're vegan, you can have a slightly different emotional response. You might detest it, but you cannot be apathetic to meat. The problem is that we might be craving it a little bit too much. There is a massive growing demand for meat. It is driven not only by the growing world's population, by the changing diets all over around the world, especially in Asia. And this is happening at the same time where we have reached capacity in meat production worldwide. We simply don't have enough land and we don't have enough water to make more meat. And if you take a look at what we're doing right now, well, meat production is actually causing about 16% of global carbon emissions. 70% of the global arable lands are used by production of animal protein. And 23% of the global freshwater supplies is used exactly for that reason. This demand and peak capacity has brought many innovative companies like Beyond, Impossible, and others to essentially try to take plant-based protein and mimic the texture and protein content of meat. And I think they're doing a remarkable job. You can actually get the bite feel, you can get the mouth feel of meat with plant-based products, but something is still missing, actual fat. You see, we know when somebody is grilling meat from 500 meters away. We can smell it down to the ppms. And what we smell is animal fat being grilled, generating hundreds of polyaromatic hydrocarbons at very, very tiny concentrations. And we are incredibly sensitive to that. It's something that we are already craving. And it's something that you can't produce chemically in a safe manner. But there is a technology that can make that. And this technology is cultured meat. Cultured meat is the idea that you can take cells from animal, expand it in bioreactors, and then use it to assemble meat. The idea has been around for the last 100 years. And it is certainly possible, but it is expensive. Indeed, the first burger made by the innovator Mark Post essentially cost about $2 million per kilogram. And other startups are producing that and can produce that for tens of thousands of dollars, but still, prices are prohibitive because you need 300 billion cells for every kilogram of mass that you produce. Future Meat Technologies essentially came up with a different technology. We are relying on slightly different cells than everybody else. We're actually using connective tissue cells that grow very, very fast, very few nutrients, and more importantly, they do not require genetic modifications to grow forever. Essentially, the product is GMO-free. Not only that, the cells can grow in standard stainless steel bioreactors that are not fundamentally different from your microbrewery, the way you make beer, or your cultured yogurt. More than that, the technology is there that allows us to efficiently rejuvenate the medium. That means removing the waste products actively from the process, enabling process yields that are 20 to 100 times higher than normal. What it actually means is that this is how the farm of the future is going to look like. Not very different from your microbrewery. In a facility like this, that is about 1,200 liters, well, we can make about a ton every 2 weeks. If you combine it with plant-based products, that means you can make 8 tons every month. 8 tons every month is the equivalent of 6,000 chickens every 6 weeks or 200 cows every 10 months. But let's bring it home. Let's try to, I want you to imagine what it means. Your refrigerator in your kitchen is about 600 liters. 600 liters allows you to make about 200 kilograms of mass every 2 weeks, 400 kilograms a month. That's the equivalent of 200 to 1,000 chickens. That's the equivalent of 2 cows growing in your refrigerator back home every 2 weeks. It's enormous yield, and it can change the planet. This is how it looks like, the final product. This is how a cultured meat, cultured chicken skewer would look like. And this is how it sizzles. It gives you the same flavor and the same aroma as meat. And when you look at a cross-section, it looks the same fibrous feel, the same mouthfeel, the same structure as chicken. Indeed, 85% of the people that ate it couldn't even tell the difference. It's not only chicken, it's also lamb and beef kebabs that we have sizzling beautifully on the plate. Now, what it actually means is that this is how we think we can impact the entire industry. When you think about the meat industry alone, moving to cultured meat will enable us to produce 80% less global carbon emissions, 99% less arable land use throughout the planet. It means 96% less freshwater use, and what's even more interesting is the byproduct of the entire process, right? One of the waste products is actually lactate. It's a raw material that is critical for biodegradable plastic. Moving to cultured meat would actually allow us to double the amount of biodegradable plastics produced on the planet just by switching. It has another impact as well. If you're losing this arable land, essentially you don't need to use it for pasture anymore, then you can allow it to regrow. This is the map of North America. 30 to 40% of the land is actually using for pasture and range. If you release it, allow it to regrow, the forest that would grow over this land can capture essentially 59 billion tons of CO2 over the next decade. That means making the United States, maybe in the world, carbon neutral for the next decade, giving us time to solve many of the things that we need to in this coming climate crisis. Thank you.
For years, Strauss's dairy products have been favorites in Israel and in high demand. There is not a child in Israel who doesn't love a milky chocolate mousse, nor a mother and father in the country who don't stock a Dani pudding, Danone yogurt, or Yotvata chocolate milk in their fridge. Recently, Strauss established the Kitchen Food Tech Hub, which addresses global food challenges by harnessing Israel's renowned innovation ecosystem. It strives to make the world food chain more productive, affordable, sustainable, and healthy by investing in and nurturing cutting-edge technological startups. And here are some of its highlights.
Hello, everybody. The world is changing, and it's not a phrase. The ability to sustain human life in greater numbers with limited resources is becoming a mission impossible. Therefore, there is a need. There is a need to find new ways, not only not to spoil the soil, the water, and the air that we all use, but to find technologies that will generate new soil, new resources, new water, in order to generate enough food to sustain humanity. On the other hand, we have all developed a greater awareness for what we eat, breathe, and drink. Not only our impact on the environment, but the impact of the environment on us. We are all aware of the benefits and risks of social networks, for example, and now we also develop the awareness of the influence of the food on our mood, on our happiness, and on our health. In this manner, the corona had only accelerated directions and trends that were existed before. if I'm looking on the food market, I think the only way that changed a little bit was the away from home trend. We are all looking for better food, less sugar, better ingredients. We all shifted to online shopping. The awareness, as I said, on our environment and the environment on us. We are looking for more proteins, but less animal. We shifted for smaller brands with personal promise and other trends that the coronavirus has only accelerated. In Strauss, we are going through this journey in the last 8 years. The understanding and acceptance that our role in this game and in this process is not only to provide food and healthy and good for our health food, but also to create a better tomorrow, to improve people's life, to invest in technologies that will enable us all to have better future. The necessity of offering various high-quality solutions for different communities, different needs, different habits, different personal limitations. And we need to bring it to the market through all the channels and all the way of consumptions. We are also understood that we need to make breakthroughs. We need to be pioneers. We need to make things that will change the world. On the other hand, we understood that we can't do everything by ourselves. We don't have enough solutions, nor enough technology and resources. The abilities and risk-taking that are needed in order to change the world is something that will need collaboration. We have developed various business models. The things that are shorter to the market, closer to the market, and closer to our abilities and expertise in Strauss Group will keep developed in the current business units and companies. We also established a central unit, we call it Alpha Strauss, in order to bring in external innovation in an open innovation platform where we join forces with entrepreneurs and companies that can develop and try their innovation on our production lines together with our marketing people and together with our engineers in order to create a better world. We also developed in those platforms new inventions like sesame that have a better yield and better nutritional values, hummus without preservatives, more protein in milk, less sugar in chocolate, and various of other solutions like reducing salt in our salty snack business, reduce waste, and create better food safety on our production lines. We had also established a new venture arm, the kitchen, that initiate breakthrough solution that either we invented or we initiated, or entrepreneurs that came to us and together with them we had developed. These are technologies that can change the world, such as cell-based meat, vegetarian replacement for meat and eggs, sweet protein that will be able to replace all sugars and will prevent the diabetes problem, that is one of the most dangerous illness in the world. Milk protein that will be produced by plants, and many others that you can take a look if you log on to the kitchenhub.com and see the list of initiation. We created a new ecosystem, international ecosystem of people, companies, investors, brand owners, big and small, to support this ecosystem. We started this journey a few years ago. I hope that we were able to contribute to this need and create the technologies that will enable to change the world. I want to welcome everybody joining this journey, and I invite you to join forces with us in order to create a better world. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful session throughout the day. Thank you very much.
This concludes our segment of food innovations by Israeli companies. You can contact any company by approaching them directly or by contacting us at info@jerusalempressclub.com, and we will make sure you reach the right people. Please stay tuned for our other segments in this press conference showcasing Israeli contributions in energy and agriculture. By 2020, one would assume that farmers would have the know-how to improve the efficiency of their work by minimizing their resources and increasing their yield. Israeli companies are doing just this, all the while ensuring sustainability, and are now teaching their colleagues around the world to do the same in their own fields. Other companies are perfecting water technologies, creating precision irrigation solutions for sustainable agriculture. And another Israeli business has gone head-to-head with sewage pollution, using modern-day analytics to transform the methodologies of wastewater networks. Our last segment will explore these cutting-edge initiatives. I'm honored to present Mr. Alon Schuster, the Israeli Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, for opening remarks.
It's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you some of Israel's latest accomplishments in innovations agriculture. Despite the shortage of water, ongoing soil erosion and dry land conditions, Israel has managed to develop one of the world's most successful agricultures. Always ready to assist others, Israel has reached out of areas in the world where its advanced agriculture technologies could improve the living conditions of many millions. The following presentation by Israeli companies, startups and institutions will highlight some of the cutting-edge technological innovations in precision agriculture, water saving, improving crop performance, robotic farming and more. These groundbreaking technological innovations are advancing and the strategic development goals of the UN and are making the globe more sustainable for future generations.
So agriculture has been around for what, 12,000 years? But did you know that today there are robots that can pick fruit and sensors that know what a plant wants and when? Here are 7 Israeli technologies that are making farming more efficient and more sustainable. Netafim is famous for inventing drip irrigation, a system which drips water directly into plant roots. It significantly reduces water and increases crop yields. Today, they offer sustainable turnkey projects that include high-tech greenhouses and advanced control and monitoring open platform.
This open platform wraps up 50 years of experience, put it up in the cloud, use this big data in order to serve every farmer worldwide.
Israel recycles over 86% of its wastewater, by far the highest in the world. The Shafdan treatment plant takes raw sewage, filters it again with microorganisms, and cleans it until it is safe to drink. Taranis is an intelligence platform that uses satellite imagery, aerial footage, big data, and predictive analytics to monitor fields and help farmers make the best decisions.
We can image a field in a really high resolution, about 0.1 millimeter per pixel.
Wow.
That means that we can see a tiny insect on a leaf, and then we can train a computer to analyze it and find these insects or weeds or disease and give a farmer a report, and then he can spray according to this report. Just where in his field we can find the weeds, he can apply spraying just there.
BioBee uses predatory wasps to control insects as a biopesticide. It thereby reduces the need for chemical pesticides by up to 70%. Groundwork BioAg uses tiny microscopic fungi to help plant roots absorb more nutrients. This increases crop yield with less fertilizer.
So the fungus penetrates the plant root. It effectively extends that root in an underground web. The fungus can break down nutrients that are otherwise unavailable to the plant and physically mobilize them into the plant.
FF Robotics makes robots with computer vision that can actually pick fruit straight off the trees. Supplant uses big data and sensors to talk with plants to know exactly what nutrients they need and when they need to be watered. With more people on the planet, we need to grow more food with less water and smarter, cleaner processes. This is the next agriculture revolution right here in Israel.
The people of Netafim call themselves farmers first and innovators second. They started in 1965 in Israel's Negev, trying to grow crops in desert soil. So they know what it's like to farm in extreme conditions. That struggle taught them how to combine precision irrigation, agronomic expertise, and relentless innovation to help farmers grow more of any crop, in any climate, with less.
Hi, I am Natan Barak, Director of External Affairs and Sustainability in Netafim. I'm a member of Kibbutz Hatzerim, where drip irrigation was developed, and from here introduced to the world 55 years ago. We are located in the Israeli Negev Desert, and for us, water scarcity was always and still is a constant reality. At Netafim, we say it in 4 words: grow more with less. This means using solutions based on precision irrigation to help farmers achieve higher yields and better quality crops while using less water, less fertilizers, and less energy. Regardless of the crop, climate, soil, or region, our mission is to empower smallholder farmers and large farm operations to grow more food in more efficient ways using fewer resources. This is the way to generate sustainable livelihood that enhances the lives of farmers, their communities and societies, and all those involved in the food value chain. For many years, I used to wear a different hat at Netafim. As the company's commercial director for some decades, I circled the world more than once. I drank countless cups of dark coffee on every corner of the planet while meeting thousands of people, all stakeholders in the ag industry, traders, engineers, bankers, government and organizations people, but mainly farmers, from whom I learned most. And although I was there representing the commercial side of the business, selling Netafim products and solutions, I could clearly see, wherever I went, that our solutions were transforming people's lives. Which is why, when I was appointed Director of Sustainability a year ago, I saw it as a huge opportunity to leverage what we've accomplished so far in sustainable agriculture to achieve a global impact. Part of my work this past year has been concerned with the SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which were spelled out by the United Nations as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and improve the lives and prospects of everyone, everywhere. These goals were adopted by all UN member states in 2015 as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which also set out a 15-year plan in which to achieve them. The issue with these goals is that they are huge. People see them as inconceivable and impossible to achieve. They say, how do I end poverty, guarantee zero hunger, achieve gender equality? Unfortunately, many people treat these SDGs with lip service, something that's just politically correct to talk about. At Netafim, we've been practicing sustainability from the very beginning. Our mission is all about that, meeting current society's needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. For us, it is always about doing, putting ideas and concepts into action slowly, methodically, step by step, or, as we say it in Netafim, drop by drop. And once you start doing, you start seeing change everywhere, farm by farm, one community after another, and the big concepts become real through the stories of the people whose lives we have touched. Without doubt, the Sustainable Development Goals are embedded in Netafim's mission and influence our decisions and global initiatives. We believe that precise irrigation is part of the solution, and we are tireless of forming partnerships to advance precision agriculture as a key to prosperity around the world. As the global leader in precision irrigation, also inspired by Orbia, our majority shareholder, whose purpose is to advance life around the world, we are proud to play a significant role in improving sustainable prosperity on the way to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Our innovative partnerships, such as the community irrigation model in India, shows how much can be achieved when willing partners come together to create new ways of working and sharing resources. Allow me sharing with you this meaningful experience that is forged into my memory and shows clearly the impact we've made across the globe. Join me for a short video filmed in the southern state of Karnataka in India.
For children growing up in the drought-ridden Karnataka region in India, water scarcity, food insecurity, and poverty may be a reality, but they need not be a destiny. In 2017, Netafim completed the Ramtal Community Irrigation Project, an innovative public-private partnership and the biggest drip irrigation project in the world that demonstrated how creativity, resourcefulness, and working together can make a dramatic change for good. How did we help make this happen? We did it by giving smallholder farms equal access to water all year round through investment in effective water infrastructure and drip irrigation technology. We taught farmers how to increase crop yields exponentially using less water and fertilizer, so they could secure their farms and finances.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಳೆ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಒಂದೇ ಪೀಕ್ ತಕ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ವಿ ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಹನಿ ನೀರಾವರಿ ಬಂದಿಂದ 2 ಪೀಕ್ ತಕ್ಕೊಂಡಿವಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿಂತ್ರ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗೈತಿ ಗಂಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳೇನು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಜರೂರತ್ತು ಇರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳೇ ಇದನ್ನ ಇಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಈಜಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಕಷ್ಟವೇನಿಲ್ಲ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು
the government thought that why not to move to the drip irrigation, and we are very fortunate that the Netafim came at that point of time with the whole concept, and it was like a kind of a marriage between the state government and the Netafim.
We help farmers organize for commercialization and continued working with farmers to ensure productivity year after year. By building vital infrastructure, supporting agricultural commercialization, and getting all stakeholders working together for a common goal, we are giving hope and a future to a new generation. Netafim, grow more with less.
As the video shows, in this region, no rain means more than just no crops. It means that smallholder farmers may have to sell their land, their only asset, to repay the loans they took out to buy seeds and fertilizers. It is a pattern repeated across many developing countries where smallholder farming accounts for a large part of food production and is the basis for the local economy. Millions of farmers feel trapped by poor education, lack of access to water, climate change and droughts, outdated farming practices, and sadly, they see poverty as their inevitable destiny. Reducing dependency on rainfall for crop production is a key factor for financial stability and bettering the lives of millions. This can be achieved by modern irrigation system and equitable access to water. But how can that be done efficiently in huge numbers when smallholders lack the financial capacity to pay for a modern irrigation system and has limited ability to adopt new farming practices and technologies? The community irrigation model, developed by Netafim, brings together the public and private sector in a joint effort that brings water, efficient irrigation equipment, know-how, and new practices, and above all, hope and prosperity to these huge communities. Community irrigation is unique. Unique in the way it leverages economies of scale and organizes individual smallholder farmers into irrigation communities, along with a long-term commitment by Netafim to operate the project and train farmers before handing over to local communities. This enables governments to implement large-scale water infrastructure necessary to bring water to the water-starved regions. It also gives farmers modern agricultural practices needed to set in motion a positive knock-on effect to reverse the cycle of poverty, creating new employment opportunities in production, processing, transportation, and marketing, and on top of all that, also reducing rural migration. For the 7,000 farmers living in 22 villages in Karnataka, the biggest single problem was a lack of fairly distributed water. In the Ramtal Community Irrigation Project, the one you saw in the video a few minutes ago, we installed thousands of kilometers of bulk water supply and drip irrigation lines across a phenomenal 12,000 hectare area, delivering water at uniform flow rate from the pumping station directly to the plant's roots. Providing smallholder farmers with resource-efficient drip irrigation systems and digital farming tools enabled them to double crop yields and increase crop quality on the same or even less land while using less water, less fertilizers, and less energy. This is the power of community irrigation, a model that today has spread and is directly improving the livelihood of 200 villages in Karnataka, 100,000 farmers over 100,000 hectares of farmland across the state. Similar projects are now being rolled out in other states in India, in Rwanda and Zambia in Africa, and other countries around the globe. Our core message is one of empowerment and optimism. Putting simple-to-use technologies in the hands of farmers supports Netafim's purpose to grow more with less and practically transforms lives of so many around the world. Thank you.
Wastewater poses a number of great challenges to the environment. It endangers public health. If polluted, it can't be reused. It damages infrastructure, flows into our streets, and into our oceans. But the Kando company tells us that our wastewater actually contains a lot of data. And this data provides us with sophisticated tools to analyze it, optimize our decisions, minimize costs, and realize the potential of our resources.
Hi, my name is Mallory, and I am Sales and Business Development at Kando. Here at Kando, we use data from wastewater to create a safer and healthier environment for an improved way of living. How do we do that? Well, we use a unique combination of wireless IoT units and data analytics to provide water utilities with actionable insights to optimize their operations. We all know that the world is facing a lot of challenges, and definitely water quality is one of them. So let's see how Kando addresses this issue from a client eyes.
Oggi vi presento il progetto pilota per il monitoraggio degli scarichi a rete fognaria che abbiamo in corso presso il distretto di Modena. Il gruppo ERA lo conoscete, siamo attivi in vari territori, soprattutto in Emilia Romagna, ma anche in Veneto, in Friuli Venezia Giulia, Marche e Toscana. Per quanto riguarda il servizio idrico, siamo il secondo operatore in Italia e in particolar modo, vado veloce sui numeri per andare poi sul progetto, la direzione acqua, che è la direzione del gruppo che si occupa del servizio idrico integrato, gestisce qualcosa come 900 impianti di depurazione e circa 15.000 km di rete fognaria, che è il focus del nostro intervento di oggi. Ecco, il progetto di cui parliamo si inserisce all'interno di una strategia che il gruppo ha avviato, come anche altri gestori, come altri gestori italiani stanno avviando sui temi della fognatura e depurazione. È un processo di transizione che ci sta portando a affrontare i temi come il cambiamento climatico o il riuso delle acque per minimizzare gli impatti ambientali, e quindi passare da impianti di depurazione che erano considerati fortemente energivori, il focus era sul processo, a impianti su cui l'efficientamento energetico è sempre più diffuso. Passare da un'ottica di rispetto dei valori limite allo scarico da normativa a un'ottica di recupero e riutilizzo delle acque, non solo, miglioramento della qualità anche in termini di standard del regolatore, di ARERA.
בדקנו את הזרמים שמגיעים למט"ש. אפיון הזרמים האלה נתן לנו פחות או יותר אינדיקציה איפה לחפש. ואז הלכנו אחורה לכיוון המפעלים ששארנו שהם אלה שמזהמים. מסתבר לנו מהר מאוד שאנחנו מזהים 81% ממקורות הזיהום. פשוט מזהים ויודעים לאפיין אותם. שוב, גם לזה יש משמעות כלכלית אדירה. א', כי לתאר את השפכים האלה הרבה יותר קשה, ולכן יש בחוק סכומים שהמפעל הזה צריך לשלם, שמפצים אותנו על האנרגיה שאנחנו משקיעים בטיפול בשפכים האלה, וימנעו למעשה מאיתנו נזקים במט"שים עצמם. בדרך כלל כשאנחנו חושבים על נושא של זיהום, אז אנחנו מדברים על מתכות, אנחנו מדברים על כל מיני אלמנטים כימיים, אבל נתקלנו בעוד תופעה מעניינת דווקא בנוף הגליל, שקיבלנו התראה שיש שם מפעל שמזרים שפכים בטמפרטורה של מעל 70 מעלות. וזה פרמטר שמעולם לא חשבנו למדוד, 70 מעלות, צנרת PVC גורם לנזקים לצנרת. ואותו מפעל כמובן קיבל התראה, וכל נזק שיגרם לנו לצנרת, המפעל הזה יצטרך לשאת בו. כמובן שהחבר'ה ראו אותנו מגיעים ושותלים בשוחה מחוץ למפעל לאיזושהי מערכת, הבינו שאנחנו רואים הכל. ותראו איך ההתנהגות משתנה, תדירות הזיהום משתנה, וגובה הזיהום משתנה, פתאום נעלמו האסורים, דברים התחילו להסתדר, וזה חלק מחינוך של מפעלי תעשייה שמזרימים למט"ש. אז בסך הכל, המערכת הזו נתנה לנו אינדיקציה לגבי מה הולך לקרות, אפשרה לנו כמעט שנה לפני לבוא למפעלים האלה ולומר להם, חבר'ה, בתנאים האלה לא תזרמו למט"ש החדש, אתם חייבים לעשות שינוי.
Come gestore del servizio idrico integrato della città metropolitana di Milano, il gruppo CAP ha tra i suoi obblighi quello di gestire gli impianti di depurazione. Nel caso specifico di Pero, uno dei nostri più grandi impianti, vi è la necessità di proteggere appunto l'impianto da possibili eventi di inquinamento che si verificano lungo la rete. Siamo riusciti a trovare con la tecnologia di Kando un modello di lavoro che ci permettesse di rispondere a queste necessità di monitoraggio preventivo. Dopo un iniziale periodo di apprendimento anche da parte nostra come gestori della soluzione, siamo riusciti a meglio interpretare i dati che arrivavano in tempo reale dalla piattaforma Kando, e questo ci ha permesso di identificare l'autore della contaminazione, e addirittura ci ha permesso di identificare un utente che non era tra quelli nostri mappati, in quanto non doveva scaricare in pubblica fognatura. Questo riscontro ci ha permesso di valutare, siamo in una fase appunto di progettazione, per capire come scalare questo progetto in una fase di produzione, tenendo in considerazione che abbiamo 40 depuratori, quindi 40 bacini e un territorio molto ampio da gestire.
There is a very exciting place in Israel called the Volcani Center, where the country's major agriculture research is being conducted. This is where some of the field's greatest innovations are created, no pun intended. Scientists are quenching Israel's thirst, developing irrigation solutions using effluent and saline water, paving the way for freshwater fish farming under conditions of water shortage and more.
Volcani Center deals with various problems in agriculture and simultaneously initiates many studies and innovations that find their way to the fields, orchards, and markets all over the globe. Today, 6 research institutes operate at the Volcani Center. Volcani Center is located in Rishon LeZion with 2 additional research centers, one in the north, Neve Yaar, and one in the south, Gilat. Agriculture in the state of Israel and in the world is facing the threat of a food crisis and ongoing disruptions in the supply of fresh food. Reasons for this are unpredictable climate changes, global warming, excessive utilization of natural resources, and cumulative damage to the soil, factors that significantly influence agriculture in Israel. The agricultural research organization Volcani Center facing these phenomena.
When I come into the lab, I think about global issues that we need to solve through basic research. Things like global climate change, things like food production, how to put the food on the table, and bring us to a world which will be a better place in the future.
Research science were able to develop a variety of plants that can grow in arid and even impossible areas, thereby convert desert agriculture into a synonym for Israeli success. As part of a global effort to deal with the shortage of fresh water, Volcani Center researchers led many imaginative developments which have been adopted for use in the world. Another futuristic saving irrigation development is the microchip installed in the tree trunk, sending accurate information on the state of its water to the mobile phone of the farmer.
The EC probe helps us control irrigation in agronomic crops. It puts us in the age of irrigation controlling. By using this EC probe, we can save up to 30% in irrigation and fertilization. Actually, this is the only probe exists in the world that helps us to control irrigation in agronomic crops.
Not many know, but one of the current food crises stems from a lack of common food sources for man and cows: wheat, corn, and soybeans. To avoid a shortage of seeds of this type, Volcani Center researchers have developed alternative food substitutes.
We have developed a unique feeding system for dairy cows that can utilize up to 35% of their diet byproducts which are not suitable for other animal and for human feeding, such as pomegranate peels, beer pulp, corn pulp. Despite of this unique system of feeding, the Israeli cow is the best cow in the world in milk production.
The potato is the staple diet of contemporary humanity. The extended storage, sometimes for months, harms the produce before its marketing to the consumer. Experiments conducted in laboratories in Volcani Center have found that peppermint oil is the solution in an organic manner without flooding the storage rooms with polluting chemicals.
These potatoes, for example, were treated with mint oil and they are not sprouting for about 9 months. And this solution can be used in developing country which has problem to build big storage houses which are cooled. So in this case you can use the mint oil for inhibiting sprouting even in room temperature.
In the heart of the Volcani Center, there is the National Gene Bank that characterizes the research thinking for the sake of future generations. Here, millions of seeds of all the various plants of Israel are carefully kept to allow future replanting of each plant if, for some reason, it becomes extinct from the earth. Scientists at the center also teach in various academic institutions and mentor research students from Israel and abroad, thus creating the next generation of scientists in agriculture research and development worldwide.
I am very happy to be here in the Volcani Center and do my 3rd degree with the brightest minds. We, the students, have the responsibility to provide the solutions for the food supply in the future. I know that my profession is going to be one of the most requested in the near future.
Israel is the superpower of knowledge in the field of agriculture. Millions of its citizens are fed every day by consumption of local, fresh, and quality products produced by the most advanced technologies in the world. All this thanks to science seeds that were planted hundreds of years ago by the founder of agricultural research organization, Professor Yitzhak Elazari Volcani. Did he see in his vision that Israel will turn within 100 years to be the light to the nations in agricultural knowledge and export it to the whole world?
If we want our lands to continue producing the food we eat for future generations, we must start taking better care of our soils. This is where CropX comes in. This company helps optimize inputs and monitor the movement of water and agrochemicals in the soil to minimize environmental pollution and to prevent leaching, runoff, and unnecessary resource expenditures.
There is a vast amount of untapped data below the surface of every farm. Data that has the potential to change how we grow our crops and in turn, how we conserve our resources and feed our growing global population. Introducing CropX, a platform that delivers the soil intelligence today's farmers need to reduce inputs, improve yields, and meet tomorrow's global food demands. The unique patented spiral design of the do-it-yourself CropX sensor make it easy to self-install in just minutes without disturbing the soil, thus significantly increasing accuracy beyond any other sensing technology. Combining soil moisture, temperature, and EC readings with a comprehensive big data analytics platform and advanced cloud technology, CropX delivers the most reliable soil monitoring system on the market. We help farmers cut costs, prevent runoff, and optimize crop yield. Farmers can create their profile, load their sensor data, map fields and zones, and take action in just a few clicks. Actionable insight, helps farmers get more from their soil. Every crop, every field, no matter where they are. CropX, the Internet of Soil. More on CropX.com.
It's your land, and you know it better than anyone. Every crop, every ditch, every plant. You also know that adaptive irrigation is the key to getting the most out of your soil. These sensors give you the simplest, smartest, and best adaptive irrigation solution. It's completely do-it-yourself. You'll be up and running in no time. The revolutionary spiral design allows for easy installation and perfect results. It's irrigation with a difference. CropX combines advanced cloud technology with affordable sensors in the ground. Unique CropX technology scans your field and analyzes its different zones. The CropX mobile app directs you to the exact point in your field to place the sensor in the soil. Simply scan the QR code and the sensor automatically connects to the system, starts gathering data, and sending it to the cloud. Now that your fields are connected online, expect to receive texts from them. Your fields now have a voice.
So, Dad, what's your field saying today?
No need to water today. The CropX system automatically generates the optimal irrigation plan and sends it to the app for you to approve or modify. Adaptive irrigation works for me.
Hey, Dad, the field's texting you.
Yes, you can now tend to your field anywhere, anytime. Rest easy while CropX monitors your field and optimizes crop yields. Skeptical? Try it on just one pivot and see for yourself. CropX, the Internet of Soil.
Robot vacuum cleaners are already household gadgets, but how about a robot that picks tomatoes for you? At Metomotion, they developed such a robot called GROW, Greenhouse Robotic Worker, GROW. And after finishing the picking task, it can go on to pruning, monitoring, pollinating, and more. where people put their heads together in order to develop innovative policy strategies, programs, and projects to meet environmental challenges in Israel and around the globe. It is the Milken Innovation Center, and one of its key efforts in this vein is the International Fellowship, which allows alumni to apply sophisticated Israeli technologies in their home countries.
Thank you for this invitation to join you today. Wanted to tell you a little bit about how we're looking at both financial and technology accelerators as being the key of importance to working together to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. By the end of 2019, we were already seriously off track meeting both the SDG goals and the climate change goals that have been set out by international agreements. COVID-19 crisis really set us back considerably. 71 million people have been pushed back into extreme poverty during 2020. It's the first rise since 1998, and half of the global workforce has experienced a 60% decline in income. Declines in child labor have been reversed for the first time in 20 years. The death rates of children under 5 and maternal deaths have spiked, and we're going in the wrong direction on global warming, which has been increasing rather than reversed. So how can we together start to address these global challenges to security in climate, food, energy, water, health, in order to create a platform for shared prosperity? The SDGs provide us with a framework for doing that, both in terms of the goals and the targets. We have to figure out how the solution sets in order to meet them. So how do we indeed move and meet this moment in history to get back on the right track? Now, at our institute and at the labs that we do, we focus not on the what questions. On global poverty, we obviously will agree is a problem. There's a great consensus about issues about income inequality constraining global growth. We know there are barriers to technology adoption and adaptation to the situations in developing countries. So we really focus on how to finance, how to organize, build the financial models and the business models in order to carve channels of capital that would flow into this area. How do we work on this? Well, we do these labs that I was just discussing. We're a financial innovation think tank working around technologies of all sorts that translate into the best practices for scalable and market-oriented solutions that can be pulled into the market through the democratization of capital by providing investable projects that can drive that. We train people to do this and into co-innovation teams with people in different countries. At this overlap and this Venn diagram between finance and technologies, how those can be mutually reinforcing to accelerate growth and sustainable development, and the training experience to do so. And these are some of our partners that you see here. Here in Israel, what's driven this country's growth to developed country economy status has been technology. It's responsible for over 60% of growth over the last 3 decades, over 40% of our foreign exchange reserves. And we've looked at the startup nation ecosystem and the technologies there, and we've identified 600 to 800 companies that are specifically targeted on applications in water, food, energy, and health, but driven by life sciences, communication, ICT technologies, and the like that provide those solutions. We have to bring those together in terms of policy, business models, and technology, and finance and investment, and then policy and program changes as well, to form co-innovation teams that can be deployed on specific objectives. Now, these co-innovation teams that we try to form have to go through a process to identify what specific achievables, deliverables would be, and types of projects to go into becoming investable projects that are worthy of and sustainable on a financial as well as on an environmental and social criteria. We do this by training teams of people in conjunctions with our labs at the Hebrew University School of Business and at the Milken Innovation Center through our Blum labs for developing economies in these various areas and tied to specific projects. Now, I want to just take you briefly in the time I have today through a few case studies of how this has worked. And here you see the pictures of some of our fellows who've come here for 10 months to a year working on specific projects, on assignments with startups or with our R&D labs, both at the Agricultural Research Center as well as corporate R&D labs from major technology corporations. And I'm just going to walk you through these. There's 3 examples. One in cassava to extend its product life. The second on dealing with off-grid and mini-grid solar for areas where there's inconsistent electricity provision, working with Power Africa and others focused in this area. And the third, looking at artificial intelligence applications for digital payments and fintech that can optimize the yield for small farmers. So let's take cassava for a moment. Timoteo Mudale came to us from Nigeria, from the University of Ibadan, and was put on a project that we were able to identify to deal with SDGs in the focus of cassava. We know cassava is a main staple for a large part of the sub-Saharan African population. There's over 30 million smallholder farmers growing cassava in Nigeria. It's a weather-resistant crop with very high nutritional value. The needs and challenges is that the life expectancy of a cassava, the shelf life of a cassava plant is about 36 hours, 2 to 3 days, before it starts to rot. So there's enormous post-harvest loss of cassava after the harvest, and there's very limited methods for extending its product life. So at the harvest, the volume of the cassava floods the market, lowers the price, and limits the income for farmers. So if we could combine some technologies, as we found them in the Agricultural Research Institute, on field drying of the crop, as well as storage, we could extend the life of that and increase the income and yields for farmers, for smallholder farmers. And the post-harvest loss, the life of the cassava plant, let's start with that, the product life would go from 36 hours to 4 to 5 months, and that would end up reducing the post-harvest loss from 45% down to 3%. The avoidance of that cost of all of that loss means really more money in the pockets of smallholder farmers in terms of income and yield. It also means more food security in the value chain and greater value. It reduces the waste of cassava roots so that processors can purchase cassava based on need. So these are all aspects that are very key. Another key example was to look at, and you can see what was reached there. Let's talk about electricity for a moment. We had a fellow come from Kenya who was working in a state in Kenya where there were enormous problems of energy gaps that were left by the national grid in terms of power infrastructure connections and alternative and affordable energy. So then 45% of the households were not grid connected, 70% of the electricity was hydro and renewable, but was affected by regular droughts resulting from expensive fossil and use and power rationing in the country. So the high cost of energy infrastructure was hindering the production of affordable electricity, especially we took a hospital in this particular state in Kenya, as well as a food processing plant that you saw some of the workers there from. And that by creating more energy that could be satisfied from renewables, we're able to increase the consistency of energy provision and the lack of product loss there. So the last section that I wanted to mention about was to talk about what happened in the use of artificial intelligence in the whole area of digital payments, and how that could really work as a very effective method of being able to establish and strengthen the links of weak value chains. So less than 20% of the farmers in developing countries have internet access, but mobile phone coverage is around 95%. The margins are very in the value chain for papaya and for mangoes, particularly, is very large, but most of that profit is absorbed by brokers. By giving an AI tool to the farmer or the people in the markets, they can go to the markets that have provide them a higher price for their product. It reduces post-harvest loss and adds more income into the small farmers that are working in mango production. So these are just 3 case examples. There can be so many more. The more people that we can train and the more labs we can do to come up with particular applications of technology and financing for meeting these sustainable goal solutions. So I hope you'll reach out to us as well through the other folks at this global conference to come up with ways that we can work together. Thank you.
The people at the agrotech company Verticalfield believe that everyone deserves the right to local and healthy food, an optimum well-being, and a sustainable planet. By integrating innovation with nature, they have created vertical solutions that turn cities into hubs of healthy food, wellness, and sustainability.
Refresh everything you thought about your produce. Now imagine you can grow and sell at the same place. Take full ownership of your supply chain with no distribution costs and full control over how much you grow and where, while ensuring more crops with longer shelf life. Yes, we know your space is tight, but Verticalfield has just the solution. Introducing the first soil-based vertical growing platform for supermarkets that hasn't been possible before. All the fresh veggies you need are now within arm's reach, creating a whole new economic model, cutting your storage and transportation expenses while increasing efficiency by growing vertical crops with longer shelf life, regardless of the weather. Your business can provide on-site produce while others simply can't. You can control and monitor all the plant's vital signs and let our smart algorithms and sensors take care of the rest, creating a unique shopping experience for your customers and at the same time contributing to a greener, healthier environment. Finally, everyone can enjoy fresh and healthy as can be salads, lettuces, mushrooms, all grown on-site. Together, let's change the way we consume food. Verticalfield. Revive your urban life.
Imagine a world free of pesticide. The people at BioFeed have promised to achieve one by enabling farmers to grow spray-free produce, thus enhancing food quality and safety for consumers, while improving the environment. Let's see how they do it.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nimrod Israeli, the founder and CEO of BioFeed, but I started my way as a farmer. And my goal is about health of the farmer, of the environment and consumer, and in addition also to improve the livelihood of farmers. How do I do it? I do it thanks to my own experience as a farmer when I noticed that in my organic farm, 5% of it, I get very low yield, I spray a little, but the price of the produce per kilogram is high. In contrast, in the conventional orchards, the yield is high, but I spray a lot and the price per kilogram is low. So I thought, well, the consumers want is fruit free of chemicals. What if I can take that conventional orchards and get them free of most of the sprays or all the sprays? I would like it. I'm sure consumers would love it, and also the environment. And if the farmer can get more money for it, great. That is exactly what I did. And I started by focusing on the pest that bothered me the most, which is fruit flies. Now today fruit flies are damaging between 50 to 80% of the fruits in Africa, Asia, and many more places. And because of them, there is a need for sprays which are useless. So after I did my PhD in agriculture and insects, I founded BioFeed. And BioFeed focused on this, using non-spraying techniques, mainly based on releasing slow release of attractant of smells that attract the flies and then killing it by giving it something to feed on which is harmless to us and to the environment, but killing the fly. No chemicals to the environment, zero. Now, a few years ago, we had a breakthrough. We managed to do this not only in Israel, which we did before, but also in India and then in Africa, which led me to meeting with many prime ministers and ministers, including that of India. But that is not the thing. We managed to reduce the sprays by 100% and infestation by over 99% compared to sprays. And then I saw it's not enough. Because if I want to improve the livelihood of farmers, I need to give them a tool so they can sell their produce not only in the next village for a few cents, but in good markets, which means getting to export. And getting to export, I had to come up with a new innovation, and that is Green Valley biofruits. This is something for them that I will help them reach those markets and help them also to increase the yield, because the yield in Africa and Asia is so low. This is exactly what Green Valley biofruits is doing, and to know more, you are very welcome, and I will be pleased to share it with you. Contact me. Bye-bye.
Agriculture is not what we used to think. Today, Migal in northern Israel helps farmers by equipping them with cutting-edge tools of precision agriculture, accurate data collection capabilities, and synchronization, processing data collected from different sensors in the field, and using complex data collection platforms.
How we envision the service we offer to the farmers. We come to the field owned by one of the farmers where our system is operating, after receiving a request from the farmer to scan his field and search for large variance of crop yield. In this case, this is a plantation. We arrive early in the morning, unpack the remote sensing cameras, the drones, and prepare for operation. Then we position the drone for a pre-programmed flight above the field. In the next step, we extract the raw data directly from the drone and the sensor controlling the system. An advanced algorithm transfers the readings from machine units to light flux units by taking into account the position of the sun in the sky, the atmospheric conditions just above the field, and the plant characteristics, which all contribute to the recorded profile of that plant in that specific field at that time of the year. The outcome is a reflectance profile of differential areas within the scan field that contain all the physiological, biochemical, physical, and optical data of the plant embedded within the spectrum and carried by the reflected sunlight rays of the photons that reach and interact with the plant and are scattered back to the sensor eye with the information. In the next step, we have the raw spectrums in the correct physical units, and we need to isolate meaningful physiological parameters of the plant that are superimposed on each other within one spectrum. To do so, we either use a single spectral line within a spectrum or a combination of bands that report on that particular plant characteristic. Eventually, we are generating a map for each part of the field with various parameters that together provide a full physiological profile of that area. In other words, the data informs us how the plant feels. For example, the first parameters that you see on the screen exhibit the amount of stress of the plant. Only one area in the field is colored in intense red. Hence, this area suffers more than the rest of the field. The next parameter describes how green the field is in the terms of biological activity. Again, this area is less active. Finally, we also check for photosynthesis level, and we see that only in that cell there is less photosynthetic activity. This means that from a single spectrum of hyperspectral sensor, we can gather several parameters simultaneously and create a meaningful physiological profile. In the past, such information would be costly to obtain, as it required expensive field installation. Now all we need is a drone with a sensor and a team who can analyze the data correctly. The final step requires the decision support system itself, a complex algorithm that takes into account all the physiological parameters that were analyzed and suggests a course of action, change of the fertilization levels or change of irrigation dosing rate in order to mitigate the problem. The recommendation can be set directly to the fertigation controllers as instructions, or we can also create a colorful and informative map of the field with a suggested course of action to the farmer.
For almost 120 years, JNF, the Jewish National Fund, Keren Kayemet LeYisrael, has been busy making the land of Israel beautiful and sustainable for its people. As kids, we used to plant trees, which now populate the country's forests. But JNF is more than just planting trees. Let's take a look at some of the other things they've been doing.
For over 115 years, Keren Kayemet LeYisrael, Jewish National Fund, has been greening Israel by preserving open spaces, caring for forests and recreation sites, developing water sources, and educating people about protecting the environment. KKL-JNF is responsible for about 400,000 acres of forest and natural woodland in Israel and has planted over 240 million trees to date. As the Forestry Service of Israel, KKL-JNF works closely with the Israeli government to manage and maintain the many planted and natural forests countrywide. In an effort to mitigate the effects of climate change, KKL-JNF plants trees and maintains a proactive policy of reforestation. Planted forests and limans in the Negev desert region prevent soil erosion and desertification. Forests affect Israel's environment in many ways. They help stop desertification, influence climate change favorably, create green lungs around residential areas, and promote biodiversity. KKL-JNF creates and maintains sustainable parks and open spaces for the benefit of all residents of Israel. The biospheric parks balance the needs of development and preservation, enabling people to live in harmony with their surrounding environment. Initiatives such as green leadership classrooms and outdoor educational programs are part of KKL-JNF's environmental education for children and youth. Israeli society includes a great variety of ethnicities and nationalities. KKL-JNF encourages all Israeli citizens to live in harmony by creating shared public spaces and community education programs. Forests are major centers of ecotourism and recreation in Israel. KKL-JNF forests are open to the public free of charge and include numerous hiking, walking, and cycling trails. KKL-JNF invests in making its sites accessible for the physically challenged, bringing nature closer to everyone. KKL-JNF understands the need for a holistic approach to the environment and promotes practical research in the fields of forestry and agriculture.
To support agriculture, KKL-JNF has also taken on the mission to create new water sources from recycled flood runoff and effluents. To date, KKL-JNF has constructed over 230 water reservoirs and dams, which supply over 70% of the water used in Israel for agriculture. KKL-JNF invests in developing innovative water technologies, such as the biofilter, constructed wetlands, and drilling projects. KKL-JNF shares its practical knowledge and experience with countries around the world through conferences and collaborative projects. In addition, foresters from around the world come to Israel to learn about KKL-JNF's techniques in afforestation and combating desertification, which today is a worldwide threat. The need for food security and renewable energy is an urgent global concern. KKL-JNF assists developing countries in gaining food security for their people by sharing its knowledge in desert agriculture. KKL-JNF activities are made possible with the support of its 900,000 friends and 45 offices around the world. KKL-JNF's many supporters and partners worldwide serve as living proof that when we all work together, we can make the world a better place, taking care of our earth, water, trees, and people.
At Phytech, we measure the daily plant stress of your crop and give you a simple indicator of their status. It helps you find the most effective way to water and reach your optimal yield by avoiding plant stress. Here's how it works. Every plant has a daily cycle. During the day, sunlight activates the process of photosynthesis, which produces carbohydrates required for fruit production. The stomata of the leaves open to allow carbon dioxide to enter, but also results in water in the leaf tissue being lost. And that's not a bad thing. As long as the plant can maintain the water supply, photosynthesis continues and it can maintain growth and fruit production. Water in the soil enters the root system and travels to the leaves through the trunk. The trunk shrinks when the rate of water lost through transpiration is higher than the rate of water taken up through the root system. These microscopic changes in the trunk diameter are monitored hourly by a Phytech plant sensor, and the size of the contraction measured is directly relative to the stress of the plant. Two factors affect the rate of shrinkage: supply and demand. The demand is primarily governed by atmospheric conditions. Higher temperatures result in higher demand, and lower temperatures result in lower demand. At the other end of the system, the supply is primarily related to the availability of water in the soil. A reduction in soil moisture reduces the supply available to the plant. But too much water can trigger plant shock, leading to a reduction in the photosynthesis process. At night, the leaf stomata close, photosynthesis ceases along with transpiration. However, the plant continues to draw soil moisture through the root system to replace the store in the plant tissue of the trunk and branches. The Phytech plant sensor monitors the recovery to ensure the plant finishes the day better than it started. Sunrise comes around and the daily contraction and expansion start again. For most crops, waiting for the visual plant stress cues of leaf wilt is too late. Recovery can take many days, if at all, during which plant growth and fruit production are limited. The negative effect on perennial crops can also be carried over to subsequent seasons, resulting in reduced yield potential. The Phytech service includes hardware deployment, data transfer, and automated analysis. We use crop-specific algorithms to determine the plant status and deliver a simple indicator to your web browser and smartphone. Our additional services include irrigation monitoring, evapotranspiration forecasts, and irrigation prediction tools. Now, you can simply see a map of your crops and know which plots need your attention. You can protect your plants from stress and optimize their production and yield.
Obviously, it's getting hotter and drier, and we're in longer and more frequent droughts.
Al Staley manages 15 farms, hundreds of acres of crops.
I've got lemons straight in front of us, mandarins towards the back of the canyon, and the grapefruit block is up front.
His biggest cost and biggest concern is water.
We have to use as little water as possible and still produce a healthy crop.
Over the summer, he installed a solution.
This is the sensor here.
These sensors measure tree growth. Others in the field measure soil moisture. All of it feeds into an app that tells Staley exactly where, when, and how much water to use.
If there was any blocks in stress, they would be red or yellow or orange.
That allows him to skip watering days. The change has been immediate and impressive.
And when you add that up over the course of the year, it's thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands and hundreds of thousands of gallons of water.
It's one innovation that farmers in San Diego are using to maximize yield in the face of climate change.
Gurion University, based in the Negev, the southern arid area of Israel, is named after the founder of the state of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, who once said that we have to conquer the desert before it conquers us. The university takes its eponym seriously, and some of the encounters the Blaustein Institution's work with the desert has are truly exciting.
Israel's Negev Desert, a land of searing heat, dry, barren, and yet ruggedly beautiful. A place where Abraham, Isaac and Jacob walked, where Moses and the children of Israel wandered, and allotted to the tribes of Judah and Shimon. Today it makes up 60% of the modern state of Israel, and it is still a land of wonders. My name is Professor Simon Barak from Ben-Gurion University, and I'm standing here in Midreshet Ben-Gurion, overlooking the spectacular wilderness of Zin. And I'm standing right by the graves of Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, and his wife Paula. And we're going to visit an agricultural industry which has really flourished in recent years all over this part of the Negev. And it's where Ben-Gurion University researchers have had a real impact. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to this one, and you'll see why later. So here I am in the absolute middle of nowhere. And what can we find here? Vineyards in the desert. So we're about to meet my close friend and colleague, Professor Aaron Feit from the Jacob Blaustein Institutes for Desert Research. Aaron made Aliyah in 1992 from Italy, and he's a plant biochemist and the leading scientist in the agrotechnology and biotechnology of desert viticulture. So viticulture is the production of wine grapes. So let's go ahead and meet him. Hey.
Hello, Simon.
So it's amazing to be in a vineyard in the middle of the desert, Aaron. Why grow grapes in the desert?
Well, the desert has been used for wine production thousands of years. And here the good things about desert viticulture are the fact that we have nice solar radiations. Moreover, we don't have a large amount of humidity, which helps plants not to being attacked by pathogens like fungi. And you can control very precisely the amount of irrigation each plant or each cultivar gets, including also the amount of fertilizers the plant gets.
So this is drip irrigation?
Drip irrigation, which is an Israeli technology, which Netafim is distributing throughout the world.
Do most of the farmers here grow grapes for the major wineries in the centre and north of the countries, or do they actually have their own wineries?
Yeah, I would say it's both. You have both small wineries and farmers that try to make a living out of ecotourism with a small production like 2,000 bottles a year. And you have then the big wineries from the center and the north that are actually growing their grapes here because they want the characteristic aroma and fragrance of the desert.
Of the desert wines. Are there any Israeli varieties, like Israeli native varieties that are grown in Israel for wine?
So viticulture in the past stopped when the Ottoman Empire arrived to the region. So it was quite a long time ago. And since then there was no real wine production in Israel until modern times. So there are Israeli vines found in the wild, and now they were collected by Dr. Eliashiv Drori from Ariel University in a nice collection, mainly for breeding purposes.
Mm-hmm. So Aaron, we're going to be seeing you later, so for now we're going to say bye, and we have with us one of your students, Noam Reshef, who's just at the end of his PhD, and we're going to talk to him now about some of his work that he's doing in this actual vineyard. How did you get interested in winemaking?
Well, I went to New Zealand after my army service for my big trip, and I was hitchhiking in the middle of nowhere when a vineyard owner picked me up. After a long ride together, he offered me to stay with him and help him out in the field, and I did. It was short, but it inspired me for the future.
So you're saying just by chance, you're in the middle of New Zealand,
Definitely,
and just happens that a vineyard owner comes to pick you up, and that is what inspired you to go into winemaking?
True story.
Amazing. So you came back to Israel and you did your first degree
I came
in
back
what?
to Israel. I did my bachelor's in biochemistry and food science, went to work in a winery in the Golan Heights.
Wow.
And then I straight headed to France to do my master's in viticulture and enology.
And then you came back to Israel to do your PhD?
Yes, this was the plan, to learn my the knowledge there and implement it here in Israel.
So Noam, I know that you've been doing a lot of research in your PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Yeah, well, it's not a secret that warm climate viticulture is associated with inferior wines. But we can't change the climate, so what we can change is maybe the fruit microclimate. And this we can do by mainly regulating the amount of sunlight penetrating the fruit.
So what you're talking about is the actual climate around each individual berry?
Yeah, exactly. The microclimate, the conditions that are sensed by each berry. Most of what we did is apply shading nets and see how it affects the grape composition, and we have state-of-the-art metabolic profiling techniques to really see all the compounds that are in the grape that are involved in the quality of the wine. And now we are also collaborating with a local winery, working on a new trellis that will create this partial shading by the leaves and not by shading nets.
So you're actually going to cause the plants to grow to shade their own berries?
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
I believe that Israel can become a leader in the adaptation of viticulture to climate change.
Noam, thank you so much for coming to speak to us. It's been amazing to hear what you're doing, and I believe that you and Aaron are going to take us now to what I think is going to be one of my favourite parts of the day. So why don't you lead on?
Okay,
let's go. Oh wow, Aaron, this is absolutely amazing. What a surprise. Absolutely amazing. So, what are we drinking?
Well, it is a Merlot from a little aged from 2012 from Carme of Dat, a local winery.
Excellent, excellent. Aaron, what can be better than sitting in the middle of the Negev desert, drinking wine from the Negev? L'chaim!
Cheers!
lot to take in. I certainly learned about what Israeli entrepreneurs are doing to make the world a better place for all of us. It's definitely given me food for thought. From the exciting new innovations in the fields of energy, to tasty treats which will help save our planet, to fantastic developments maximizing our agriculture capabilities, scientists and business people around the country are trailblazing the path of sustainable living for everyone. Fortunately, all of the videos will appear on the Jerusalem Press Club's website for your reference. There, you can also learn more about the work of JPC, where journalists meet Israel. A huge thanks to Gregor Cooper, Director of the World Press Club Alliance for Climate, who gave us the opportunity to present some of Israel's climate-improving accomplishments for generations to come. I'd also like to thank Laurent Brihe from the Press Club Europe in Brussels and all of our friends at the press clubs worldwide. A special thank you to our partners at the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to all of the companies featured. Let us continue to strive for a better planet and the implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and goodbye from Jerusalem.